This is a lotus, and according to China, it's soon going to break Silicon Valley. You see, China just officially completed the first major phase of a massive development called Unicorn Island in Chengdu. To pull this off, they didn't just build an ordinary business park. They literally hired the absolute best architect on the planet, the legendary Zaha Hadid, to custom engineer a sci-fi metropolis modeled entirely after the layout of a lotus flower. But it forces us to ask a massive question. Is this thing actually going to break Silicon Valley? Think about the math here. China is pouring roughly $40 billion into this brand new shiny city. But can a $40 billion project really dethrone the world's undisputed king of tech? We are talking about a California powerhouse that is home to giants like Apple, Nvidia, Google, and Meta, an ecosystem with a mind-blowing collective valuation hovering between $14 and $15 trillion. Can a physical masterpiece compete with a $15 trillion monopoly? Today, we're going inside China's ultimate architectural flex to see exactly how this lotus design works, why they built it, and if it stands a real chance in the ultimate global tech war. Let's get into it. Alright, to understand why China is taking this massive gamble, we have to look past the shiny glass and concrete. For decades, China's economic playbook was simple. They were the factory of the world. If you had a tech company in Silicon Valley, you designed the software in California, and China manufactured the hardware. But around 2017, the Chinese government decided they were done playing second fiddle. They wanted to own the brainpower, not just the assembly lines. They wanted to build the actual intellectual property for next-gen AI, deep learning algorithms, and advanced robotics. Almost all of China's tech wealth was crammed into overcrowded, hyper-expensive coastal megacities like Beijing and Shenzhen. The rent there was getting out of hand, engineers were burning out, and there was literally no physical room left to build sprawling, futuristic R&D campuses. So the government looked inland. They looked at Chengdu. Now, if you've ever heard of Chengdu, you probably think of two things: giant pandas and legendary, mouth-numbing, spicy hot pot. But low-key, Chengdu was already a sleeping giant. It was quietly manufacturing computer chips for roughly half the world's laptops. The government designated a brand new, massive zone called the Tianfu New Area, basically a blank canvas of green hills and lakes. And right at the center of it, they decided to drop the ultimate flagship project. They didn't want another boring, blocky office park. They wanted an ecosystem that would lure the absolute top-tier tech talent away from the coastal cities and eventually away from the West. They wanted something so visually insane and hyper-functional that companies couldn't help but want to move there. And that is exactly when they picked up the phone and called the legendary team at Zaha Hadid Architects. So, let's talk about how you turn a literal flower into a 67-hectare weapon against the American tech layout. Zaha Hadid Architects didn't just throw a few curves on some skyscrapers and call it a day. They engineered the island using parametric design. Instead of forcing humans into a rigid grid system of blocky squares, the whole island is mapped out into organic, radial cells that look exactly like giant lotus leaves floating on a pond. Look at the logic here. The tallest, most densely packed commercial towers sit dead center in each cluster, like the heart of a lotus leaf. But as you move outward, the buildings cascade downward, getting shorter and shorter until they seamlessly melt into the surrounding parklands and the edge of the lake. And those swirling curves? They aren't just for looks. The pathways, bike tracks, and green spaces act like the veins of a lotus leaf. They are physically engineered to funnel people naturally from the outer residential edges right into the central hubs. This is where the direct challenge to Silicon Valley gets real. Silicon Valley is infamous for its urban sprawl. You literally need a car just to get from one building to another on a corporate campus, and you're constantly fighting brutal gridlock. Unicorn Island throws that entire car-centric blueprint in the trash. They designed the entire site around a strict 10-minute walkability matrix. All the heavy infrastructure, delivery tracks, parking, and a massive multi-line metro station are buried completely underground. On the surface, it is a pure pedestrian sanctuary. You can walk from the absolute edge of the island to the central transit plaza in under 10 minutes without ever crossing a street or dodging a car. But low-key, the craziest engineering feature isn't even the futuristic look, it's how they manage their water. The architects literally went back to ancient history, modeling the island's water management after the Duzhangyan irrigation system, a legendary flood control marvel built right here in Chengdu over 2,000 years ago. By mixing that ancient wisdom with modern tech, the island uses engineered water gardens called cleansing biotopes. They catch rainwater runoff from the swooping roofs, naturally filter it through plant life, and recycle it back into the island's cooling and irrigation systems. It keeps the whole ecosystem naturally air-conditioned without burning insane amounts of power. But a flex this big doesn't come cheap. So exactly how much cash are we talking about, and when is the rest of this sci-fi city actually opening? Let's check the receipts. Alright, let's pull out the receipt and do some real talk math, because the financial contrast here is absolutely staggering. Because Unicorn Island is funded through a massive public-private partnership heavily backed by Chinese state investment groups, they keep the exact, itemized construction receipt under lock and key. But we know it's the flagship crown jewel of the broader Tianfu New area, a mega macro tech zone that has seen a mind-blowing 30 to 40 billion US dollars poured directly into the dirt for infrastructure, high-tech transit, and smart city grid overhauls. $40 billion is an absolute fortune. But remember our intro. Silicon Valley is a biological ecosystem of tech giants that is collectively worth anywhere between $14 and $15 trillion. Let that sink in for a second. Silicon Valley's valuation is nearly 400 times the size of the entire budget of this mega project. You cannot just copy-paste that kind of deep capital, historical momentum, or institutional wealth overnight, no matter how massive your checkbook is. But China's strategy isn't about buying the crown instantly. It's a calculated, long-term timeline play. They began this wild experiment back in 2018. By 2020, they officially wrapped up Phase 1, which is that insane, ultra-sleek startup exhibition and conference center that looks low-key like a silver wave of concrete and glass sitting by the water. Right now, as we move through 2026 and head toward 2028, the remaining massive corporate clusters, high-rise cellular towers, and residential ecosystems are hitting their final completion strides. They are actively bringing nearly 1 million square meters of premium floor space completely online. So the physical city is almost ready. But that leaves one massive question. Who actually gets to live and work inside this lotus-shaped sandbox? Is it really an exclusive club for the ultra-rich tech elite? Let's look at the gatekeeping strategy.
The short answer, yes, it is absolutely a gated sandbox, but not just for the people who are already billionaires. The gatekeeping here is entirely structural, down to the literal blueprint of the island. The city is master planned to host exactly 70,000 people. If you are a raw startup, you get placed in the dense, collaborative inner rings, sharing resource hubs, administrative support, and coaching labs. But the absolute premier waterfront real estate, that is strictly reserved for the actual unicorns, companies that have crossed that legendary $1 billion valuation mark. Their massive, custom-built headquarters flank the outer edges of the island like modern tech fortresses. The architects designed the entire layout radially around a central metro station. The strict rule of the island is that everything, your office, your apartment, your gym, the organic grocery store, is within a strict few minutes walk or bike ride. There are virtually no traditional commuter cars cutting through the heart of the tech clusters. It is the ultimate hyper-efficient, eco-futuristic dream, but it raises a massive, glaring red flag that Silicon Valley purists absolutely love to point out. When you manufacture a tech ecosystem from scratch, top-down, with flawless grass and perfectly assigned corporate zones, do you accidentally kill the very thing that makes tech empires successful in the first place? Let's talk about the missing ingredient, the garages of Silicon Valley. And this brings us to the ultimate trillion-dollar question. Silicon Valley's origin story didn't start in a multi-billion-dollar masterpiece designed by a world-famous architect. It started in the absolute dirt. It started in Hewlett and Packard's rundown wooden garage. It started with Steve Jobs assembling motherboard parts in his parents' spare room. Silicon Valley's superpower has never been its physical buildings. It's always been the chaos. Silicon Valley is a chaotic, messy, organic ecosystem where a casual conversation at a local coffee shop or a random college dorm room can turn into a billion-dollar startup over a weekend. It's built on a culture of risk, rapid failure, and venture capitalists who are willing to throw millions at two kids with a crazy idea and a laptop. At the end of the day, Unicorn Island is a stunning, mind-blowing testament to what modern architecture and state-backed engineering can achieve. It has completely redefined the physical blueprint of how a high-tech city should look, breathe, and function in the 21st century. But replacing a $15 trillion monopoly like Silicon Valley requires more than just a gorgeous $40 billion Lotus. It requires a culture of unchecked, messy innovation.